Hello and welcome to H&L Classics. If you're like us who love the idea of owning and driving and experiencing classic cars, and you're considering making your first foray into this field of classic car ownership, then this video might be useful for you to watch and to hear our views before you plunge headfirst into what might be the biggest mistake of your life. Now, if that doesn't scare you away from owning classic cars, then continue on watching, as we would like to share 3 things that you really need to consider before making the plunge into the world of classic car ownership. No doubt that owning a classic car can be a lot of fun, and you'd be racking up many years of exciting memories and experiences by virtue of owning and maintaining a classic car. However, all that fun and experience comes at a price, and you will need to be prepared to make that investment in your classic car. So the first thing that you need to consider before making the plunge into classic car ownership is that, are you mentally prepared for what's ahead? Now, it might sound strange to start off with mental preparedness as the first criteria or the first thing that we'll look at in owning a classic car, but it is the most important aspect of classic car ownership, we feel. And this is because classic car ownership is never a logical choice. If you're looking for a vehicle, a daily driver to take you from point A to point B and to get the job done, the classic car would not be the first choice for you. Go ahead and buy one of those reliable commuter cars that will do the job perfectly for you with warranty, and you're sorted. Classic car ownership is always an emotional decision. And we all know that making a decision based on pure emotions would almost always result in terrible consequences. So before making the plunge, make sure you are absolutely clear what you intend to get out of your classic car ownership experience. For some people like us, we enjoy the driving and ownership experience, restoring it over time and making it look better and better as it goes by. For others, they love the look of it and would like to keep it garage and well kept and rarely driven. For others, they are into resto modding to take a classic car, up the performance, slam on some good brakes and suspension and take it on the track. And you have other extremes of the concourse participating individuals who would like flawless, perfect, better than factory condition classic cars and are willing to invest crazy amounts of money to do so. The other part about being mentally prepared for classic car ownership is the surprises that will come along the way. And most of the time, if you're not prepared, these will be pretty unpleasant surprises, from unscheduled breakdowns to huge repair costs that may come along the way, and all the annoyances that come with an aging automobile. From leaks to broken trims, non-functioning gauges and switches, you name it, chances are your classic car would have it. Unlike a new car that's straight fresh from the factory, that's been quality checked, you get it from the dealer, you drive it off, no questions asked, no worries in your head. If anything, it's under warranty, there's a service center nearby and you can get parts and your car will be resolved. If it can't be resolved in double time, you get a replacement or temporary vehicle that you could use, and then you'll be off on your way. No such thing with a classic car. If you're lucky to get a single owner vehicle with full service history, that's one of the best case scenarios. Alternatively, you get a fully restored vehicle from a trusted restorer. You'd likely have a lot of unplanned or unknown issues lying await ahead of you. So in summary, make sure you've thought this through carefully and you're mentally prepared before embarking on your classic car ownership. Now, the second thing that you need to consider is, are you financially prepared for classic car ownership? And when I say financially prepared, I do not mean that classic cars are always going to be very expensive to own and restore and maintain. There are quite a number of very nice classics out there that can be bought for very affordable prices, that are reliable if maintained well, and where parts are also quite readily available. What's more important is whether or not you have done your homework on the total cost of ownership of a classic car. What we mean is that a lot of situations people get quite excited over buying a classic car that's cheap on the market, it's a few $1,000s here and there, and they think that by just purchasing the vehicle at a few $1,000s, it runs, they test it, it's good, and the cost of maintenance would just be befitting a car of a few $1,000s. Now that cannot be further from the truth. Many of these classic cars, when they were new, cost a small fortune, right? Whether they are Mercedes-Benz, BMWs, Rolls-Royce, Bentleys, the Toyotas, Hondas and the like, maintenance costs for these cars have not come down over the years. Let's be very, very clear about that. In fact, maintenance costs may even have gone up because the price of parts available for these cars tend to go up over time as the parts supply becomes more and more scarce. So in the case of an old Mercedes-Benz that you might pick up for, let's say $5,000, you're not going to be able to maintain it like a $5,000 car. The maintenance costs for that car would be whatever it was and more from when that car was new at that particular price point. And you would very likely be spending much more than the cost of acquiring the car on maintenance alone. So if you're not prepared to spend more than what you've paid for the car, then let's be honest, you're not buying a classic car, you're buying a really old car to run it to the ground and eventually go to the scrapyard. The other part about being financially prepared is that for maintenance, it's not just the cost of parts alone. Bear in mind that for many of these cars, the parts might not be readily available locally or near where you're at. You've got to pay for shipping, and shipping for mechanical or heavy components can be very expensive depending on where they're from and how long it takes to get there. And for many countries across the world, automotive parts are also taxable. So be prepared for any import duties, custom duties that would add on to your cost of ownership as well. So as part of your financial preparation, budget, of course, the cost of acquiring the car, put aside a reasonable amount every year for what it costs to maintain the car so that it's in good, safe running condition. Add on a bit more every year for the cost that you like to restore the car, cosmetically or otherwise, and be very clear at the end of the day, what is it that you'd like to get out of your classic car ownership, and be ready to spend enough to achieve those goals. Now, if you're thinking about making money from classic car ownership, no. If it was so easy to make money from owning classic cars, everybody would be doing it, nobody would be buying new cars, and there would be absolutely no debate as to whether you should buy a new car or an old classic car. You'd be incredibly lucky not to lose any money in the process, and only in very, very rare circumstances that you'll be able to make money from classic car ownership. And finally, the last thing that you should consider before you make your plunge in owning a classic car is, do you have the resources available to help you with the ownership and maintenance of the car? By resources, we don't mean financial resources. We mean things like knowledge, for instance. Have you done enough research on the classic car that you intend to buy? And would you know who to go to, where to look for information if anything goes wrong? So have you armed yourself with all the knowledge that you need for all the quirks and peculiarities of the classic car that you intend to buy? Do you know whether the car has gone through any recalls, any defects? Are there common issues that you'd experience with the car, be it with the transmission, the engine, drivetrain, interior, safety features, so on and so forth? For many of the cars, there are forums available on the internet where you can browse through and read through all the questions that fellow owners around the world will have about the car. That will get you a lot more informed about the car that you intend to buy. It would also be incredibly useful if you've got someone that you know locally together with you who has owned those cars before and are familiar with them, to go together with you to inspect the car that you intend to buy. Having someone else look through the car together with you who's a lot more familiar with the car than you are would really help you consider all the pros and cons of buying that particular car, and hopefully let you arrive at a more sound decision whether should you go ahead with your purchase. Oftentimes, depending on what car you're looking at and where you are, there are also classic car owners clubs out there. We would strongly advise you to join one of them or a few of them, get to know people who own these cars as well, make friends with them, and they'll be able to help you out in your search for your own perfect classic car. Now, unless you're a serious DIY fella who has all the tools, jacks, ramps in your own house, or you've all got your own workshop, you would likely need a specialist in your local area who's also familiar with the car and the specific model that you intend to buy. A thorough inspection of the car before you commit to purchase is always highly recommended, and having a good relationship with one or more of such workshops would be really useful in your classic car ownership experience. So now there you have it. These are the 3 things that we would highly recommend that you consider before making the plunge on your first classic car purchase. First, ask yourself, are you mentally prepared? Second, ask yourself, are you financially prepared? And last but not least, do you have the resources available to you to ensure that you're able to have an enjoyable experience owning a classic car? So if you're watching this and you tick all 3 boxes and you're deciding to buy your first classic car, congratulations, you're well on your way towards a very fulfilling and enjoyable ownership of something that just money alone cannot buy. And we think that's one of the key reasons why classic car ownership is very appealing to certain people, in that we appreciate things that are only obtainable purely through effort and knowledge alone. For instance, if you got $1 million lying around, you could easily buy the new Rolls-Royce Ghost, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari. However, if you're eyeing for something just as expensive, like the W100 Mercedes-Benz 600, something like that in good condition would require effort to search for it, would require knowledge in order to own and maintain it, and also a lot of resources on hand to make sure that it is kept up to the condition that befits its status as a very rare and desirable collectible. And in all our years of owning and maintaining and restoring classic cars, we've met many people in the classic car scene, and there is really one thing that we have in common. And no, if you're thinking that we are obscenely rich, that is absolutely not true. We know it ourselves, we've got bills to pay, and we'll just leave it as that. The one thing that all classic car owners have in common is that we are extremely passionate about classic automobiles. And having that shared passion and being able to experience it together is something that we believe is worth all the pain and suffering and effort that goes into owning and maintaining a classic car. So what are your thoughts on classic car ownership? Is there anything else that you consider before buying a classic car, or anything else that you'd like to add? Please feel free to let us know in the comments down below. And as always, stay safe. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us a lot, and it also lets us know that you enjoy the content that we produce, and it does motivate us to produce much more of it for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.